Now, I want to talk to you about former Cabinet Minister Braverman. You know I like her. I think she should be the leader. She should be Prime Minister. And she is causing headaches for the current Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. She says as long as he is PM, the UK will not leave the European Convention on Human Rights. The PM was threatening to do that after the ECHR ruled that inaction on climate change could be considered a breach of human rights. Now, why is the UK a party to this convention, Darren? And does it threaten a nation's sovereignty?
Absolutely, it does, because now we have one of the rights enshrined by the European Court as being action on climate change, Rita. So these are activist judges. It's an activist judiciary that puts forward so-called rights, which basically represent their views, and they force governments who are party to this agreement, the ECHR, to actually follow out its political demands. I would argue that whilst Britain is party to the ECHR, we cannot have border controls, and we certainly cannot have common sense and rationality when it comes to the net zero nuttiness. I really think it is time that we do leave. I think it's people who argue that the United Kingdom it cannot have human rights without this foreign court. Look across the world at Australia, New Zealand, Canada. They don't have jurisdiction of foreign courts lecturing them on what they can and cannot do. Yet you all manage to have human rights. You all manage to basically enshrine everything that the United Kingdom has stood for throughout its history, stretching back almost 1,000 years to the Magna Carta. Are we really suggesting that the United Kingdom doesn't know a thing or two about human rights and enshrining rights in law? It's an absurdity. We must be able to control our own borders. We must be able to do what you guys did in stopping the small boats, in stopping rampant illegal migration to your shores, because we're seeing the consequences of inaction. And the consequences of inaction, dare I say, are the kinds of things that we've seen happen on our streets since October 7th, the kind of things that we saw outside the Sydney Opera House, the kind of things that we've seen week in, week out in the streets of London. I really do agree completely with Suella Braverman. I think Rishi Sunak is a weak Prime Minister. I think there are far too many in that cabinet who are too scared of actually governing for themselves and being responsible for themselves. And they would be quite happy actually to say, well, we can't have border controls, we can't have robust action on these points because the European Court forbade it so, because that takes accountability away from these weak-minded, weak-willed politicians. And that's what I find so reprehensible. So yes, we do need strong action and leadership from the likes of Suella Braverman.
And this is why you had a national vote. You had a vote and the people backed Brexit, and it seems like that's never been fully implemented, the spirit of that vote. Now, before you go, we have to talk about Prince Harry. It's been a while, and there's news that he's working on a new documentary, a new project for Netflix. They call it a docu-series, but really, Darren, it's a reality show like the last one they did that was just mind-numbingly boring. This one, though, is on a topic that Prince Harry is actually knowledgeable about, polo. But is there a massive market for documentaries on polo, Darren? Who's going to watch this?
Well, absolutely. There clearly isn't a market for that. You know, polo, it's quite a niche sport. I don't think it's overwhelmingly popular anywhere in the world, really. It's basically what I would describe as a sort of a penchant for posh people. But look, this is clearly an attempt to create reality television by masquerading as a documentary on polo, when actually it's a documentary on these two and their penchant for being in the press. I would just, you know, in this country now, Rita, we're hearing, because as you well know, the royal family are going through their own problems at the moment with the His Majesty King Charles III and, of course, the Princess of Wales out of action after cancer diagnosis. And some people are suggesting that we bring back Prince Harry to the United Kingdom in order to help share the burden. Now, I'm sorry, but whilst he was here, he didn't want to share the burden, did he? Meghan Markle didn't like rainy charity galas and good old Blighty. She didn't like a little bit of selfless charitable obligation because they care more about press trinkets and getting money from Netflix and all of these other dirty things, selling out their family in order to sell a book that he received quite the helpful advance over. Oh, Rita, they make my skin crawl. This isn't about polo. This is about the prince. And this isn't about any kind of charitable endeavor. This is about Meghan Markle. They both put themselves first, and they always have, and they always will. I want nothing more to do with them. I'm delighted that they continue to lose their appeals to have the United Kingdom taxpayer basically be responsible for their security whilst they're here. They can pay for it themselves. They're making a pretty penny, Rita. I just, honestly, the two of them need to be as far away from Britain as possible. And if this acts as a deterrent from them actually coming here, well, don't count on me being too upset. I'll tell you that for free.